Hey, this is Kristen Shaw with Airport Improvement Magazine, and we're doing show and tell today with Chad Nixon from McFarland Johnson. Hey, Chad.
Hey, Kristen, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you. Hoping to see you in person sometime soon. I want to hear what is going on with McFarland Johnson and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so I wanted to introduce you and I guess the rest of the world to InfraSolutions, which is a division of McFarland Johnson. And that's something that we would have already launched, frankly, if not for COVID. So that's been a pretty exciting part of what we've been doing here.
Well, tell me about it. What is Infrastruc Solutions all about, and what is it doing for your customers?
So many years ago now, we launched a dynamic planning solution. So for airports, and what that meant is that we looked at forecasts and financials, facility requirements, alternatives, the airport layout plan, that whole planning process. And the development of that and ultimately the patenting of that kind of led us to the conclusion that things are pretty antiquated in the planning space for infrastructure in general. So that's kind of the initial effort to bring InfraSolutions online was driven by that, I guess, realization. We see so many things that technology has really led the industry forward in many ways, and in infrastructure, that particular element really hadn't. So that was kind of the beginning of us wanting to launch InfraSolutions.
And how's it been going so far? You've been launched for how long?
Well, we would have actually launched last year at the AAAE National Conference if not for COVID. So we kind of delayed that a bit, and we're pretty excited to launch this year at the AAAE conference in Vegas. So we're excited. There'll be a lot of us. Obviously, got the logo shirt here or other side. It's strange with the Zoom video, but yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there. Several of us, and kind of be showing some of the technology we've got. So it's beyond aviation, but predominantly most of the technology is aviation related.
Okay, so now that we've seen a little bit about what InfraSolutions is all about, how would you explain it to an airport? Like, how do you assess who needs it, what it's going to do, and how it's going to help them?
So there are some airports out there that, frankly, there's not a lot of activity going on. They're well established. They don't really have any changes occurring at all. I wouldn't say that's the majority of the airports. Most airports operate really like a city or a business or multiple businesses when you consider airside and landside functions, terminal functions, those sorts of things. So most airports would benefit from some sort of dynamic type of planning. When we get in there and look at it, I think all of us, my background is planning and finance. So one of the first things we look at is what do you have currently and what do we see for projected forecasts? And to be honest, on behalf of all of us in the forecasting world, it's not always accurate. It's going to be off by some amount. Obviously, if people were predicting something before the pandemic, that would have been way off. And our program, the Dynamic Planning Solution, we had never really created it to show that level of reduction in service. It was always, maybe you lost an airline or maybe you lost a couple of routes or something like that. But with that, we were able to actually model with our technology some of the reduction in traffic, and also that service coming back online and what that would mean financially as well as from your facility perspective. So those kinds of things have been keeping us very busy. We have a lot of customers now that are using the platform, both at an individual airport basis as well as a statewide or system basis. So airports, like Fort Lauderdale, for example, or other smaller airports like Scranton, Pennsylvania. So kind of a variety of different airports are using that technology now on a daily basis. I think Greenville Spartanburg, for example, has a pretty robust program that they're using that technology with. So that's been exciting to kind of further expand that and do other things with that. I'm doing a project in Nebraska and also the state of Maine using that same technology. So things are really moving quickly. That's exciting. We did actually just make a great hire in Bill Hogan, who's joining the company to kind of help us spread the word about that technology. So pretty exciting times right now.
And what are the airports saying about it so far? Like, what kind of comments are you getting back?
I think that a lot of them are using that on a daily basis to help with their operations and reporting functions. So reporting is a big deal in the world of aviation, and something that can be very time consuming. Some of the airports, medium hubs and below especially, although large hubs have the same challenge, having all this staff that spends so much time, moving paperwork around or shuffling spreadsheets around. A lot of those functions are automated with this. And it also serves that predictive nature. So also the planning side of this. So operationally, all of your numbers go into that program, and you'll see then as time goes on, it gets more and more accurate as far as its forecasting of the future. Between that functionality and the reporting function, I think that's probably what we're seeing as most helpful right now to our airport clients. And there's a whole host of other InfraSolution things that are different technologies that are also big advancements over what we've seen in the past. That's ultra realistic visualizations, being able to go in and actually see the aesthetic of terminal buildings and things like that. Beyond that dynamic planning element, some of that stuff we're going to be highlighting in the innovation theater there at AAAE.
So, do you think this is the next best thing to a crystal ball?
I'm not going to call it a crystal ball, but it's a way better mousetrap. How's that? I mean, when I look at the way we were doing things, snapshot in time of this is what it looks like your airport today, and let's come up with some sort of 20-year forecast, which is kind of in itself kind of crazy to think about. We're going to try to predict something 20 years in the future here. So from that perspective, it's such a better solution than what we've used in the past on the planning side. And it's getting better and better. So all that functionality built in as we talk to new airport clients, and we work with new airports to say, that's great, but could it do this? And having a custom software group in-house through InfraSolutions is really helpful to be able to make those adjustments and make it something that's more useful for your airport.
Clearly, the last year has affected airports and everyone in a major way. How or what have you learned from the last year that may have informed this new product, service, solution?
Sure.
Going forward?
I think a couple of things, Kristen. One would be communication. There is a higher level of communication that's expected now. I think that we used to do public meetings, for example. A lot of those were in person, and that's great. And I think that we should continue to do that. But some of the communication tools that we learned, such as what we're doing right now and virtual town halls and things like that, have expanded that reach. So we're doing a lot of those types of things. That level of expectation of using technology expands into other areas. So, those visualizations, I want to see what that improvement at my airport is going to look like in the future. I want to see how people are actually going to move through the new terminal and how they'll interact with various things. That's part of what we're doing with InfraSolutions as well. And then I think a more obvious one is on the return to normalcy, whatever that might look like. That predictive nature of those dynamic planning tools allows airports to adjust those forecasts and understand, when I need to turn those facilities back on. Maybe this area of my airport I could have shut down for some period of time, but I need to turn it back on when it reaches this level. And those things you're able to model that through our program, and that has been really helpful to some of our clients.
And why is McFarland Johnson uniquely positioned to present this to airports and offer this kind of technology?
So it's a blending really of two things. We have a very large, robust staff of aviation planners, engineers, construction phase folks, environmental planning, all those sorts of technical elements of our company traditionally. And then the creation of the software development team and the blending of those two things, really bringing some groups together that would not normally work in tandem, and putting them together in a way to create a common solution was incredibly helpful. So, and we've been doing this now for probably almost a decade now. So this is really the recognition of the success of that concept and putting them together under this banner of InfraSolutions. And so far, so good.
All right. So Chad, one more question. What is on the horizon next? What do you see coming down the pike?
Yeah, I think that we're really never going back to the way it was. And when I say that, I mean the traditional way of planning or engineering for airports. That is now constantly evolving and changing. And we're happy to kind of be on the forefront of that, but there will be some impacts to the industry. I think that big data and analytics are going to be incorporated more and more into what we do. What's the source of that information? Who owns that information? Those will be challenges we have to overcome, but I think will greatly improve our planning and engineering. So we incorporate those analytics into what we're doing now, in that predictive nature that we talked about. On the planning side, I think that'll expand into the other phases of engineering construction. So those areas I'm definitely excited about, and look forward to what's next.
Well, great work. We can't wait to see it. Thanks so much for joining us today, Chad Nixon from McFarland Johnson. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Kristen.